All right, we're live. All right. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live show. Tonight's episode is brought to you by JC Arms and Ammunition. These guys make the best, the cleanest, the flattest shooting ammunition out there, so check those guys out. Judson, I think you've shot, what, 20 or 30, 35 rounds through your guns with JCAA. Is that correct, somewhere about there?
Did you say 35 rounds?
Yeah, 20 to 35. 50? Was it 50?
50, maybe. 50.
50. 50. Maybe. Put a K on the end of it, and that's closer to what you've actually done.
After that.
Yeah. All right. So check.
I've been shooting JCAA for 3.5 years now, and up until 3 or 4 months ago, I averaged about 1,000 rounds a month. So that's how much I love their product and how much I used to clean my guns constantly, and then I started shooting JCAA. I barely clean them anymore. I'll run a patch down the barrel, and that's about it.
Are you saying I could clean my guns less if I use JCAA?
Don't clean your guns at all. Hey, Andy, how do you clean your guns?
Well, let me tell you how much Judson loves guns, or JCAA ammo. So he came down here and he said, Andy, do you have any JCAA that I can borrow just for the weekend for carry ammo? I said, sure, how much you need? Oh, just 30 rounds. I said, cool, here you go. Guess who left with my ammo?
Oh,
here you go.
He took all your ammo.
He took all my ammo.
Just to give you an idea, I believe a box of 50 rounds of their 9mm self-defense ammo, their hollow point ammo, is $30, and that's unheard of. Typically, you're paying $25 for 20 rounds, and this stuff is great. I haven't had any issues cycling it through any of my guns, and I believe, well, I know that's true for Judson and Andy as well. So check those guys out. If you aren't a Patreon, feel free to jump over to patreon.com/afteractionproject. And if you'd like to support the show, sign up there. Big shout out to Tim K, a huge $5 sponsor per show for us. Nathan P, Matt W. Some of you guys might know him as the Shit Talker, Funky Walker. Jared N, Bobby P, and Andy M. That's Andy Montoya. He's a Patreon. I believe so much in what we're doing that he's subscribing and helping out the show through that as well, in addition to giving his time. The last thing that we're going to ask you to do is give this thing a like, a follow, a comment, all that good stuff. Jump over to YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. The links are down in all of the descriptions and all that good stuff. So tonight we're going to be reviewing the Girls with Grit program. Jamie is a San Juan County Sheriff's Department's public information officer. She's also the lead instructor and heads up the Girls with Grit program up there in San Juan County. Tell us a little bit more about that, Jamie, if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Jamie Harcrow. I'm the Public Information Officer over at the San Juan County Sheriff's Office and the Director of the Girls with Grit program. Girls with Grit stands for, the acronym GRIT is Guts, Resilience, Intuition, and Tenacity. And we created the program as a self-empowerment program for women and trying to get ambassadors for the Sheriff's Office. And in a political office, there's no better ambassadors than women. I feel like it's kind of a market that's not hit with law enforcement, and we don't have law enforcement in general is just not, there's not a whole lot of women in it. And so to really connect and reach out to women in the public, we knew that would be really successful for us. And it's turned into something way bigger than I could have ever even imagined. It's a 10-week program. There's 12 classes involved. We cover anything from self-defense to personal safety and awareness, home security, firearms. We do an entire day of proper grip stance and making sure that we start with a low caliber and working all the way up through and letting them shoot our MP5, a fully automatic even. So we get to have a lot of fun. We do an active shooter class and cover a lot of the run, hide, fight, and also a soft target, hard target, and how to carry yourself, and also drug recognition and awareness. We cover a lot of local crime and a lot of local cases. We go as far as to covering sexual assault and domestic violence, internet crimes against children, technology crimes. So it's really this huge packet of knowledge that we just feed to these women over a course of 10 weeks. And the classes run every Tuesday night in a 10-week period from 6 to 9 o'clock. So we really get to take these women out of their homes and bring them into our home and welcome them to the Sheriff's Office and feed them, make it fun, and then really just blow their minds with as much information as we possibly can.
That's great. That's amazing. I wish we were closer. As I said, I would like my wife to take that course. So, Jamie, do us a favor and introduce your student and tell us all about her.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Meghan Crawford. We met actually during the Girls with Grit program, so this isn't somebody that I have known for a very long time that just did me this favor. When you guys originally asked me to come onto this podcast and talk about it, she was one of the very first people that popped into my mind. She was really passionate about the entire thing. She had friends that took it before, and it's all word of mouth. Women are amazing with social media and with word of mouth. And so when you tell one woman one thing, it doesn't have to just be a salon. They're going to go out and share the good news with other people. And she was a product of that. So she signed up for the course, and she was pregnant during it, but she was the best go-getter in the class. She was excited to do absolutely everything. She was willing and just had a really great attitude. And that's one of the biggest things that sticks with me is attitude, because you get so much more out of it. So I'll let her tell a little bit about herself and why she wanted to take the class.
Yeah. I met Jamie, like she said, through the class, and just had a lot of women tell me, oh, you have to take this class. It's really amazing. They teach you, firearms and self-defense and all this. And I've always been a fan of just empowerment and getting information. And I actually had gotten my concealed carry about a year before taking the class. My husband had his when I met him, and just kind of encouraged me in doing that. And but that's kind of one of those things, you go and you get a great course, but it's a quick 3-day weekend thing, and then you're you've got a concealed carry permit, but you're just that's it. And this was I felt like this would take it a step further, and just get some more good information. And that's what it was. It was super fun. We got to meet a lot of amazing people, and just really felt like we were brought in as a part of the sheriff's department. And it was a super great class, and I just felt like we got so much out of it. I've pushed a lot of women to go to it, and my husband and I feel like we'd love to be a part of supporting it in any way. And it's just great. I think a lot of women want to not feel like a victim, but at the same time, they really just don't know what they need to do to, what that means. How do you go about that? And so I think it goes beyond just maybe carry a gun, because there's so much more to it than that. Although that's huge, that's not really all that's about. There's so much about being aware of your surroundings and what the community offers and what's actually going on. Because some of us, I stay home with 3 boys. I'm like the chaos coordinator at the Crawford house, and that's basically what it feels like all day. But you don't always see what's going on, so it's good to kind of hear in a removed setting, like actually this is really what's going on in our community, and these are the stats here, not just on the news. And it was a great class.
That's amazing. You said right there, it's not all about guns, and we're the same way. Although we teach firearms, the bigger picture is we teach mindset, right? We teach that situational awareness, and I always take it a step further. It goes beyond situational awareness. It's more about personal awareness. What am I doing in my area? Where am I going at the stupid places at stupid times with stupid people? What am I seeing constantly? And as you said, as a chaos coordinator, I can't even imagine that, because I have a daughter. She's about to turn 20. So it's been a long time since she's been that little. But for a mother, especially, to have to be able to manage that environment along with having to manage their children is surely a challenge. And I think that's just an amazing thing to take this beyond firearms. And of course, being able to shoot a fully automatic MP5 is not a bad thing either. I'm kind of jealous about that, because I've never done that. But Judson, what do you think about the course so far as a whole and mindset? And Judson's muted.
Jeremy, stop muting me.
One of these days.
That's why I'm always muted, because Jeremy's always muting me.
No, you were typing, so I didn't want to have ghost keys.
I teach a lot of excuse me. I teach a lot of middle schoolers and young kids, run, hide, fight, and Second Amendment, firearms awareness, safety, and all that. And I think what you guys are doing is just top notch when it comes to. You were in one of my classes last weekend, and you were asked to teach a module on run, hide, fight, and like Andy said, both the instructors in the classroom were taking notes on what you were saying. So, what you guys are doing is just awesome. I think it's great. And I have a question for you though. all the situational awareness, all of the firearms, and the range time and the MP5, and I've shot those before too. And it's totally awesome to shoot a full auto AR-15. But do you guys offer any sort of medical class when you do the Girls on Grit or Girls with Grit?
No, actually, and that's been something that I've really wanted to implement, a less than lethal type of use of force, as well as tourniquet training. That's primarily been the thing that's stuck out in my mind, is potential tourniquet training. I believe that every single person on this planet needs to carry one. I think that there's so much benefit to that if people knew what the benefits of it were and how to use it, that would be amazing. But we have not actually done a medical class.
But there's 5 tourniquets within 10 feet of me right now.
I think it's huge for mothers too. I mean, it's just a really big deal that you don't realize until you actually go through the training yourself and you start listening to the horror stories, or really the amazing life-saving stories that are produced from it. So I think there's a huge benefit to doing a less than lethal type of force with potentially tasers or really OC spray. I think is the biggest thing. I see so many, 99% of the women that come into my class carry OC spray, and they've never deployed it, and they have no idea what it does, and have no idea how bad it sucks to accidentally spray yourself with it or something.
Which
like
is
that.
Almost as scary as the women that come to the firearms training and say they carry a gun around and have never shot it either.
Because we hear that all the time.
Almost as scary as that.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to get with you and maybe do some training with medical. We'll talk off the show or whatever, but I think it's hugely important for what you're doing and giving these women. I think that would be like the icing on the cake for you guys. You guys already have like an awesome program there, and if you can just get up, well let's talk off air and see if we can get you guys to run a medical module. How long are your classes? How long do they last per day?
6 to 9 o'clock. So they're 3-hour blocks is usually what we do. And, there's always the opportunity. I mean, we've heard it time and time again. As soon as that 10-week wraps up, we always end our class with a graduation, and it's kind of a celebration party. We give them certificates and make it a lot of fun. And then these women are usually contacting me on Facebook or afterwards. And just like with Meghan, we became really good friends from it because they want more. And they're like, man, my time is over. What else can we do? We've developed a database of, almost 250 women that are constantly wanting more, and that we could always invite back as ambassadors to, continue on an alumni program for Girls with Grit. And if they would like to do a medical portion, I have contact information for all of them, and a lot of them have came on as volunteers for our office or continue to donate to our programs that we offer to the community free of charge. We have to raise money for.
Cool. So most of us on this panel, Andy, myself, I'm not sure about Jeremy, but we've taken our local, Citizens Police Academy, where we sit in and go through, traffic stops and ride-alongs and, shoot the guns and, talk about, tasers and all that stuff. How would you compare this to what the police departments and sheriff's departments put on for Citizens Police Academies?
So we have, this is completely different in my opinion. It's not something that we advocate or that we push that's like, come be a cop for the day or come see what the life of an officer is. Although everything is primarily taught internally, we do have some guest speakers that come in or people that are willing to offer their services that'll periodically come in and help with the class. But a lot of it is taught by our internal officers or deputies. And it's not really the promotion of, none of the girls actually go on a ride along during the course, but we show them how to fill out the form if they're interested in it. And a lot of them end up going about that. But as far as, any sort of comparison to even like the Reserve Academy or the Certified Academy, it's completely different. As a Reserve deputy, I had to go through a lot of verbal judo style training or communicating under pressure. We do a communicating under pressure course for these women, but we focus it to complete all about the civilian mindset and really hit on how effective you can be in verbal judo with your children, with your husband, with aggressive people at the store or on the streets. And so it's definitely completely focused on the civilian mindset and not really anything to do with what you would experience as a law enforcement officer. But we certainly share our cases with them, and our detectives come in and do the sex offender registry and internet crimes against children, and they really do we don't let anyone in the course primarily under 18 because of the content that we're covering. And it's very real and it's very raw. And we tell everything. We are as transparent as possible. So they certainly get to feel what we do and get a newfound respect for it. But we want to really help them be better civilians and more proactive civilians and more involved civilians, and how to avoid ever being a victim. And if they ever were to unfortunately fall victim to something, where their resources are to help them and how they can be mentally strong enough to come out of that.
That's awesome. So Meghan, who do you think who should take this class? What type of woman, or should it be should all women take it? Or is there a specific student that you think really should reach out and take this class?
I think it's one of those things that anyone's going to benefit from that. You're going to have this stronger type A woman, but really sometimes you can get in trouble with that if you don't have the actual information behind that. You just have the guts to go do something, but you don't really know what you're supposed to be doing, or you're not wise about that. Then I think this is a better containing and maybe putting on some brakes and let me explain to you what's wise, what's not. Whereas, you've got the more timid, probably maybe a softer target type of woman, but she needs to understand where she can step up and what she needs to do. And so I really think it's fantastic for anyone. And really, I think everyone going through that goes, man, I wish my daughters could take this in high school. And I wish my mom could take this, as an elderly woman. And I think it really has a place for everyone. Because, we're all, no matter what your personality is, you're all walking in the same streets, and you're going to, everybody's got the same, to some degree, chances of running into issues. And so, and that's the other thing with it. It's not just self-defense. It's also, as Jamie talked about, it's going to go through some victim stuff that I don't think you could go into a room of people where you don't find one person in there that has fallen victim to something you're discussing. And so I think it's huge for some people to understand where resources are in our community that can give them help, or people that are surrounding them help. So yeah, I don't really see that there's an ideal. I think we had everywhere from a 70-year-old woman to a probably 18, 17-year-old girl in the class. And I think everyone benefited from it.
And one of the biggest things we always do the first day of class, I think we have everyone stand up and then or count them off 1 through 4, and every fourth woman has to stand up, and we say, look around, and on average in a class of 35 women, everybody in a group of 4, there's at least one of those 4 that have been victim of sexual assault or domestic violence or some sort of terrible crime, and a lot of them haven't talked to other people about it. So they're coming into this class not really ever speaking with somebody about it, or knowing that there are other people that they can connect with that have been in those types of situations. So bringing in a guest speaker that they can really relate with. I know our 2 sexual assault survivors that spoke last time had no idea who each other were, but they both were local cases that our detectives helped, and they were both rape survivors, and they stay in contact with each other now, and are a huge support for each other, and also just a huge support system for the sheriff's office in helping all of our women, our Girls with Grit students really grow whenever they've fallen victim to something like that.
Yeah, when you talk about that 1 in 4, so I've driven to Farmington. I'm actually up there kind of often, and on the way there's these big billboards. And just for the perspective of everybody else that watches the show, Farmington is surrounded by a huge Native American population, tons of reservations. And when you see those signs, those big billboards saying 1 in 4 Native American women are sexually assaulted, it just kind of hits you in the face, and it makes you think about it when you're out there in the middle of the nowhere, and it's powerful. So one thing I want to ask you guys about, so there's a firearms instructor. We're hoping to get him on the show. His name is John Lovell. Check him out on YouTube. He does some amazing stuff, and he talks about feminism on his YouTube page, and he talks about the reality of what we see in movies and stuff like this. We always see the women now are the powerful ones, and they're the tough ones, and they're beating guys up, and they're punching them, and they're flying across the wall, and all this silly stuff that we see. And he also, he gives much credit to women too. And he's like, you guys can do things we can't, like create people, replicate. But do you guys talk about some of that stuff in class to kind of open up the eyes of your students? I mean, the reality is, and he says it on his podcast, and I've heard it myself. A lot of females will say, well, I grew up with tough brothers, and my brothers used to beat me up all the time, so I know that I'm tough. And that's just not a reality. And so do you guys talk about that in your class?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our self-defense portion, I think, when you say we're pretty clear on the self-defense portion and how it's focused specifically to women and the way our bodies are built. And it's silly for us to try to pretend like we're going to stand toe-to-toe with somebody who's a big, huge, brawly man and be able to survive a full-on fist fight. And so our self-defense portion is very realistic, and it is not focused on a toe-to-toe fist fight by any means. It is making sure that you're not taken from one location to another. Your chances of survival significantly decrease at that point. And so our primary focus is making sure that you can get yourself out of a situation if you're being taken, if you're trying to be taken, how to get out of that situation. So we start off with a soft target versus a hard target. And when you're carrying yourself out in public, making eye contact with somebody, and somebody is so much less likely to approach you, especially inappropriately, if your shoulders are up and your shoulders are back and you're looking at them directly and acknowledging them that they're potentially walking to you. And as they get closer, what's the one thing that you can remember if somebody is approaching you and you don't want them to be?
Yeah, you speak up. You start yelling at them. You start. I mean,
don't
be afraid to be the crazy lady in the parking lot versus the silent lady in somebody's trunk. So
that's the reality of it. Is that we say that God made the hip, basically hip flexors of men, the perfect curve of a woman's foot, and that your strongest parts of your body are going to be your legs. And that's where we can benefit from making sure that, there's only one position that they're going to have to get in if they're going to try to rape you. So how are you going to combat them, and where are you going to put your feet? And once you get your feet in that position, how can you twist your body to rotate, to get away and run? And to be making as much sound as possible, and really trying, it's never about a toe-to-toe fight, because in reality, that's insane if we think that we're going to win it. I'm on the streets on patrol with guys who are way, way bigger than me. And I am sufficiently armed in a way that, I need to fight with what I have to fight with in order to survive. And not everybody's going to be armed. And there's going to be a lot of women who are so much smaller that feel like they just are not even capable of it. And my co-director of the program, Sergeant Mitchell, how tall do you think she is? I mean,
5 foot nothing.
Yeah.
She's a little bit, I don't know. She's
small, but she's a pistol. And I love getting her in those classes because we'll get our biggest deputy versus Candace Mitchell, she's an 18-year cop, and it is so fun. She's like a spider monkey, and she will motivate anybody to be able to get out of those situations and at least know that the fight is not over and you have the chance to survive. And we don't unrealistically make them think that they're going to kick anybody's butt.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's an important thing that I kind of went into that because my husband was actually laughing as I was leaving to go to this class, the Saturday self-defense portion that we did. What do we call it?
Girls on Guard.
Girls on Guard. That's right. They come in and train, and definitely one of the most fun parts of this class. But he was laughing going, okay, but seriously, I mean, I'm 6 foot tall and 100 pounds more than you. I mean, nothing you're doing there is going to stop me if I really wanted to hurt you, or obviously not in a husband, but just if I were a man trying to hurt you, I could do it regardless. And that really wasn't the point or the takeaway that, in a remote area that you could take down a man. And that's not what it was about. As Jamie said, it's more about situational awareness. How do you potentially, if you're going to at least fight back, there's a much better chance that somebody's going to go away. And clearly, I mean, I went and got a concealed carry license because I'm aware I'm a woman and I'm going to lose in a fair fight with a man. So it's not giving you that false confidence that, hey, now I did a 3-hour class with Girls on Guard, I could take down any man that tried to hurt me. It's not really geared that way, which is good.
Right. Yeah, we had another instructor on. He taught a baton class, and he said you always got to fight like the third monkey. and it's the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark, you know. So, and that's something that's really cool that you guys seem so passionate about, and I actually love this. Something really quick, and I'll turn it over to Jeremy. Have you ever thought about, Jamie, doing this maybe in video format and getting this out nationwide? Because I think there's an opportunity there. I really do.
Like I said, my job has been so intense with the sheriff's office that I'm on call 24/7 and really wrapped up heavily in a lot of the things that we do there. But I see the potential for it, and I think that that's a great idea. I would love to get behind something like that, and the possibilities are endless. We talk about that often, is that the number one thing I hear in evaluations, we do an evaluation after every single portion of this class. So during the meeting you guys this last weekend and you guys having evaluations, I understand how important those are. But every single one of them says, we need this in the middle schools. We need this in elementary schools. We need some sort of program for this, that, and the other. And this could be all-time, full-time, all the time, you know, and I think video format would be really beneficial, especially because I do love it so much.
Talk to us a little bit about the time commitment that it takes. You said it's a 10-week program. What time do the classes typically start? What time do they get out? And then what do students need to bring with them, if anything?
Yeah, so it's like I said, 10-week program. There's 12 classes. The classes are on Tuesday nights, and they're from 6 to 9 p.m. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do when we decided to develop a program for women was make sure that, you know, a lot of times, and not in every situation, but in a large majority of it, these women are worried about their kiddos or their spouses at home, and what are they going to do for dinner? So we always encourage them, leave the kids and husband at home and come have dinner with us, and don't worry about anything. So they don't have to bring anything but themselves, and I always ask for a good attitude, and the class is 100% free of charge. So it's very difficult to get into these classes. Especially with as much PR as we've done for it and as much promotion as we've done, really it's been primarily word of mouth. So the classes fill up insanely quick, and I ask anybody, if you think you're going to miss more than 2 classes, please be respectful of those on the wait list and let them take it now, and you take it when you're at a better point to be able to attend, because I work really hard to make sure that donations are coming in. We work with businesses that are really prideful of the sheriff's office and prideful of this program, and they donate dinner just every time religiously. They'll donate dinner to 40 to 45 people. So we're feeding all of the students, and we're feeding all of our instructors and all of our volunteers that help. So I have a team of 90 volunteers at the sheriff's office, and I can call upon any of them at any time to come and help me out with the program. And they're always very enthusiastic to do so. We provide them with a binder. We provide them with a USB port to store photos on. So I take pictures throughout the entire thing and really try to build a good memory base for them, and then also give them PowerPoints and handouts for curriculum for them to always look back on. And always ask them to stay involved on our social media, and we highlight what they're doing every week and telling these businesses thank you and stuff. So really they don't need anything other than their attendance and good attitude, and we really take care of the rest, and the community really jumps behind this program and helps us take care of it.
That's awesome.
My question to you, Jamie, is you talked about the donations and the volunteers and the free dinners and, you know, all that stuff. And I'm sure that the department probably provides the ammo and the guns for the range day, unless they, you know, do something else. But that's not really the question. The question is, this podcast is going to go national outside of Farmington. So how, if somebody wanted to support your Girls with Grit program, how would they do that? How would they donate? How would they get involved?
So the sheriff's office has a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is supportive of it. It's called the San Juan County Sheriff's Office Foundation, and they are the driving force behind our fundraising. So anybody that wants to make a donation to the Sheriff's Office Foundation, it's a tax write-off. It is a 501c3, like I said. They've been a 501c3 status since I think 2011 is when the organization started. It's comprised of 10 leaders throughout the community that want to go out to different businesses and partner with us. So they have a website. It's www.sjcsfoundation.com. And there's a donate button on there. Our Facebook page, we're constantly highlighting them as well. They have their own Sheriff's Office Foundation Facebook page. All the donation links are on there. Please contact me. You can reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with the foundation and give them the EIN number for tax purposes. But we have, Sportsman Warehouse here every year. They donate about 75 pepper spray. So they always make sure that each each female in the class gets a goodie bag with pepper spray in it. East Main Trade Center, Chemo Vista, a few of these different businesses in Farmington will donate earplugs and other little goodies. The foundation does pay for the ammunition that the girls shoot, but any sort of donation on ammunition or on training weapons or firearms of any kind is always very appreciative. So anybody that's interested nationwide on even finding out information on our program and how they could potentially duplicate it in their own offices or own sheriff's offices across the country. I mean, that's what this is about. It's duplicating this all over the place. I haven't created something that I'm so prideful of that I would never share it, because I think everybody needs to hear about it. And I'd be happy to speak with anybody that'd be interested.
Just watching you, Jamie, you're so passionate about this thing, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great, and I hope you guys continue. Megan, what was your favorite part of the Girls with Grit program?
My favorite, I think, was actually we got to go to the training facility where they take the deputies, and got to do spend a little time with the simulator there and taking some situations. That was super fun for me. I really, I've been to the range before. I've been shooting, and that's fun. It's great. It was really fun to kind of get how would you react to whatever's thrown at you situation. And I went, they really encourage like ladies to bring a friend or do it with a family member. So you've got somebody at the beginning of class while you get to know, really after 12 classes, you get to know everybody. But I had a couple girls with me, and that was probably one of the turning points for our discussion on what would you want, how do you feel like you need to arm yourself, or, is pepper spray sufficient? Would you want to get a concealed carry and that kind of situation? And that, I think, was the defining point for them, the ladies I was with, saying, wow, I guess at that ATM, I literally freaked out and they shot me. So I would have, in that situation I was given, I would have been in trouble. And it really made people think, and it was fun for me. I also got a good laugh out of, as Jamie mentioned, I was pregnant during this course, and I got to make the guys teaching this a little nervous, because I jumped on the floor and totally freaked everybody out. And of course, the women knew I was fine. I wasn't that pregnant, but it was really fun to watch the deputies get really nervous that I had just,
that's awesome,
done something terrible. But yeah, that was super fun. I think probably the other two favorites are always the shooting day and then the Girls on Guard. Those are the two Saturdays. So Jamie mentioned there are 10 classes or 10 weeks, but there are 12 classes, and that's because they do 2 Saturdays in addition to that. So those Saturday days are longer. It's a shooting at the shooting range, and then also doing the Girls on Guard self-defense, more hands-on, and then also an active shooter, which was very eye-opening, a really good, what would you do in this situation type of thing. That really was helpful. And, I took my class before the Aztec shooting. So we live here in Farmington and very close to Aztec. And that high school shooting that happened last year, that was a really interesting situation that I just thought, wow, you always think, what would you do in those situations? And after taking this class, I have a very distinct idea of what I would do in one of those situations. God forbid ever. But it gives you the opportunity to think through it. So that was also another, I think anytime you're doing active stuff in the class, which clearly you can't do that the whole time, there's a lot of just detectives or people coming in, giving you lots of good information, but the hands-on stuff like that is always super fun. So
total participation and involvement.
Yeah.
Judson, you're muted. I know you had a follow-up question here.
I think my follow-up question was, can I take the course?
That was the one thing when she mentioned the simulator, I actually didn't even talk about that at all. And we have a large, it's almost like a big movie screen, and it's interactive, and we put all of our deputies through it, and it's really amazing actually, because the firearm is gas chambered, so it pops just like it has recoil, and it sounds like a real gun. And then pepper spray, and whenever you spray the pepper spray, you can see it on the screen. And then you can do low light training, so if you shine the flashlight at the screen, it'll light up. And so we always scare the tar out of the women by putting them in a situation where they're laying in bed, and then all of a sudden you hear glass shatter. And then they have to go get the gun out of the safe and open the door and walk through the house with the low light and walking down the stairs and how they can search through it. And it really makes them start to think, because their heart starts beating through their chest, and you can hear them even talking through it and then screaming whenever they shoot the gun or don't shoot the gun. And these women really get to find out where they are mentally and really get to work through that. We put them through quite a few different scenarios and then wrap it up with some zombie headshots and get to have fun with it. So that simulator is extremely effective for people to find out if you are going to carry a gun and you're walking down a park and somebody's walking behind you and pulls a firearm on you, how quick can you get your firearm out? So it's so much more than, okay, great, you're going to choose to shoot a firearm, you're going to choose to carry a firearm. Are you going to continue to train with a firearm? Because if you don't, you can see how beneficial or detrimental it could be.
Is that the FATS training scenario, the FATS training system?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been through Milo, which is a very similar thing. It's just a different software. But Jamie, really quick, I just wanted to mention to you, then I'll turn it back over to Jeremy. I know he has a question for you. You mentioned Chemo earlier, the gun store down there in Farmington. Is it Chemo Sabi? Is that right? Or
no, I believe it's called Chemo Vista Solutions.
That's right. So next time you go in there, mention my name to the owners. And we have been talking about possibly doing some training with them. And I would love for you to be involved in that. So just as a segue off of what you had mentioned earlier about Chemo Vista, when you go back in there, if you talk to the ladies that own that joint, mention my name, and just let's see if we can work together and get some more training going outside of the Girls on Grip. But Jeremy, I'll turn it back over to you. I know you had a question.
Yeah, just we talked about the course format being 3 hours on Tuesday nights. So how much of the on Tuesday nights is it all lecture based? Is it hands on hand or hand to hand? Are you guys doing some hands on stuff? Reality based scenarios? What does that look like for the students during the 3 hours over the course of the 10 weeks?
So we break it down from usually we do a couple right off the first off the bat. Our next class is September 11th, and we're going to start with just basically an introduction to what the course is, go into a big tour of the dispatch center and how our dispatchers are involved in law enforcement, and really break it down from the very beginning. So we cover dispatch and what 911 does and how you can be a really good person, how you can be a good caller whenever you call 911, and how you can help these dispatchers and what they actually do. We play some calls of real 911 scenarios and really get to show these women exactly what's behind the scene on that. And then go into Crime Stoppers and different avenues of reporting tips and reporting crimes to people, and how you can partner with law enforcement as a deterrent to crime right away. And then we go into our sexual assault and domestic violence. A lot of these are guest speakers and just people talking to the class. So the first two classes are really strictly classroom based, and a lot of conversation and getting to know each other. Not a whole lot of hands-on, just kind of a whole lot of eye-opening. And we really throw a lot at them first, and then we get them really motivated to be cautious of your self-defense and self-awareness through those sexual assault survivors and domestic violence speakers. And we go into self-defense portions soon after that. So we do a couple classes and then some hands-on and reality-based training. Hold on, I need a drink, sorry. I spent too much time at Chuck E. Cheese this weekend, and I think that it gave me a cold.
Cody's good.
We go into internet crimes against children after that, with our detectives coming in and really bringing in some raw and real information, and bringing our children into it, and really these women have a connection with children just in a different way than men do. And we really bring that to the forefront of what's going on in the world of social media, and how easy it is to fall victim of a crime as far as technology goes. And so a lot of those are also classroom style. But there's so much interaction with the detectives too, that it's not something that is death by PowerPoint. We really try to avoid that. And that's why we do the evaluations after every class, because I submit those evaluations to the instructor and let them know these are as real as it gets, and you're getting 100% of the information from every single one of these girls. And if you did too much PowerPoint, they will let you know. So they really make sure that they tweak that curriculum based off of the feedback. And then we get our Region 2 narcotic guys in there, and they bring a box of goodies and all kinds of stuff of what they deal with as far as our drug recognition and awareness class. And we have a really passionate sheriff too that's really, really prideful of this program and has spent his whole career investigating homicides and working narcotics. And so he comes and does a really fun perspective on things, but gets them motivated into what the state laws are and how you can make a difference as far as legislation and where to ruffle feathers to make change. And that's really exciting.
I think the poor judges in our community get this like immediate uproar after especially drug recognition awareness, because everybody's just, that's the law, that's not right. And it's all, well, this isn't this is an enforcement issue as much as the legal system. And so I can only imagine the emails they're getting from these ladies. But.
Yeah, because our sheriff, he works them up and they're like, what can we do? And he's like, you let them know that you care and you reach out and tell them you need change. And so it's really fun to see how interactive that can be and how much they get motivated and leave this class just fired up in the best way possible. And so from there, we go straight into firearms and that simulation where we train them to shoot the firearms and live ammo, everything. And then they're really comfortable with how a semi-auto actually is how you manipulate it. We let them know the nomenclature and get them familiar with just the entire process of a firearm, and then put them in the simulator where they're already comfortable with the firearm. They already know it goes boom. And now try to put that firearm into play with your mental game. And how are you going to react in that situation? If you were to pick up a gun tomorrow, or a lot of these women, like she said, that already carry a firearm and don't even know how they would react if they were put in a really terrible situation. And so at that point, we break it down to communicating under pressure and how you can be a verbal judo queen and talk yourself hopefully out of a situation before you ever have to use that firearm. Or God forbid, OC spray. And then also our last class before graduation is active shooter. And that's where we cover the run, hide, fight. And it is so fun. I can remember this girl, her and some of her friends. Yes, it's very hands-on. We send in a guy in a red man suit after we put them through a lot of mental training, and we send him through with a firearm with a laser on it, and he'll break into the room as an active shooter. And the first scenario is, bang, 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 he gets a whole lot of people, and we're like, okay, there were 7 casualties out of 30 in a minute time frame. If you knew he was coming, what would you do? And kind of break them through like 3 scenarios of turning off the lights and putting the desks in strategic places, making it a little bit harder for them. And then the girls start kind of getting it. And they start grabbing water bottles and chairs and binders and pencils. And
some 2 very eager women shoved 2 office chairs into my foot that night, actually.
As the pregnant one, we were very worried about her.
They're just like shoving stuff all over the place, and it's fun.
And I can remember one of the girls getting a jacket and putting it over the head of the shooter, and the girl grabbed the firearm out of his hand and then held him down at gunpoint. And everybody just cheered and went crazy. And I mean, it happened so fast. And like I said in the class this last weekend, that it takes one spark to start a fire. And that's a huge thing that we focus on there, because it's very easy for people to fall into that bystander effect. And when you can show them how effective just trying to change the behavior of the shooter or in that type of situation, they're cowards. We teach them that they're cowards. They do not want to get hurt and they do not want to get caught. And if you can be the spark that initiates that fire to make either of those happen, it's just like the scenario in the Aztec shooting at the high school. I mean, he was such a coward. He put cotton in his ears because he didn't want to get his eardrums hurt, but he wanted to commit a horrible atrocity. And as soon as those law enforcement officers fired rounds through the door, they changed his behavior quick, and he knew he wasn't there for a fight.
Yeah, I'm totally stealing that it takes a spark to start a wildfire when we talk about shootings and stuff like that. So just letting you know, I'm already stealing from you. As instructors, that's the one thing that we teach, as Judson's always taught and on up, is, say it twice and call it your own. So I got a couple more times to use it and give you credit, Jamie, but then after that, I'm stealing it, so I'm calling it my own.
You're stealing from the best.
That's right.
I like the better to be a crazy lady in the parking lot than the crying lady in a trunk. That's my,
that was good too, yes.
Awesome.
I will say that Jamie graduated at the top of her class in her instructor pistol instructor class this past week, an absolute top tier.
Absolutely did.
Unbelievable instructor.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Hey, so I know we got to kind of wrap it up here. Meghan, what advice do you have for our listeners? Just general advice. It could be related to Girls with Grit or anything in general. What's your advice for those listeners?
Are you? I'm guessing thinking specifically for women in this, or are you just saying in general? Like
in general, or it could be for women. Whatever you think. What would you like our listeners to take away from this episode?
You know, I just think you need to inform yourself. It does no one any good to bury your head in the sand and hope that you never run into a problem. And so, you know, I'm all for let's get informed. Let's arm ourselves to the degree that we're comfortable and competent. And then, you know, I think get involved, get behind the sheriff's department. And even if a local place does not offer a class like this, I think there's always a way you can seek out information and ask to be trained in certain situations. And so I don't know. I think for the most part, I would just say, please be aware of your surroundings and figure out how you're going to be an asset to your community, to your family, and not fall victim to these just crazy people in this world. And I thank God that we've been, you know, scared these situations. And personally, I have, although we've had some close calls that I just make you think, man, what would I do? And what would have happened differently? What if we had been there? Would it have turned out different? I don't know. But just think. I think just be aware, look around you, and don't just fall victim to things.
That's great advice. Same question to you, Jamie. What would you like our listeners to take away from this?
I'm a big believer in being a part of something bigger than yourself, and it's going to motivate you to be a better person. And I enjoy people, and although I've seen the worst of some people, I've also seen the best of them. And I think getting involved in something bigger than yourself and getting behind an organization, whether that be the sheriff's office or an organization like the Well-Armed Women. I know that there's a group here of girls that are new to firearms and just trying to inform themselves. And when you take the initiative to put yourself out there and not stay comfortable, I think complacency is death. And if you can just continue to keep moving forward and better yourself, whether that be your mental game through education and just self-empowerment, or whether that be training and out on the range, every chance that you get, that's what it's going to do. You need to be able to prepare to protect yourself and prepare to protect your family. And ultimately, I think that we all have some sort of calling to protect our communities as well.
That's awesome. Andy, Judson, do you guys have anything, any last minute words for viewers?
So first of all, I want to thank both of the ladies for coming on. It was a great show. Jeremy's our producer, and he has to spend hours in editing shows. A lot of times he gets rid of the uhs and the ums and the awkward mutes that we end up putting ourselves on mute and talking. So I don't know if you guys were watching the chat on the side, but we're kind of laughing that you guys kind of took over the show. And actually, thank you for that, because it just makes it so much easier for Jeremy to edit the show. So
makes it a better show as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. And the only general advice I have is take these ladies' advice. For you ladies that are out there in question, get with them and talk to them, follow the website, ask questions, and get involved and learn about these little tactics and these details that people do. Another good book, and I read it in recommendation from Jeremy, is called The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. And if you ladies haven't read it, it's an amazing book. It really teaches you. And I actually have my wife and my daughter, they're planning on reading it. And I was giving them small excerpts about it, about not only the criminal mind, a lot of the stuff that they teach you in that book, it's the players too. It's the guys that like to flirt with girls and work their way and take advantage of them too. So that's my recommendation for everybody else, men and also in general, read Gavin DeBecker's book. It's an amazing book.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
No, anytime. It was great having you all on.
Yeah. So my parting, I don't know if it's advice or whatnot, but I would reach out and try to, for those of you that are listening, go back and rewatch this or re-listen to this again and listen to the voices of these ladies that have taken this class. And all of this stuff takes money. I mean, there's everything out there. I've been working with nonprofit organizations for the last, 20 years with foundations and donations and all that stuff. And if you can hear my voice, go back and look at the website that Jamie had talked about. Go there, $10, $15, $12, $100, whatever you can afford. If you believe in empowering these ladies to get out there and take these kind of classes, help this sheriff's department do that, because I think it's extremely important. And again, it all takes money. So if you guys can go out there and donate, you know, $5, $10, $20 to this cause, it's just going to allow them to put on more classes, put more people through it, build a bigger training team, you know, all that stuff that's going to get more people involved. So that's kind of my parting advice.
That's great advice. If you're able to, definitely that would. There's no shortage of people out there that need this training, and it's a shame that it's 3 hours from Albuquerque, because I think it sounds like this is one of the better programs that are put on out there specifically for women. I took a seminar with William April last year, and he was talking about they did a study. They put some women through just like a basic women's only self-defense class, and then they recorded them walking through a scenario, and criminals chose those women who took that basic, that generic, poorly put on women's self-defense course. They became more likely to be chosen by criminals after taking that than the women that hadn't taken one before. And that's all of that is to reiterate the importance of a quality and a good women's self-defense program. Something that's realistic, that's not going to give women false hope, that's not going to sugarcoat things, and it's actually going to give them the skills and the tools to deal with the threats that women face specifically. So thank you all for doing that, putting that up there in San Juan. Hopefully we can steal it and get it down here in Albuquerque and some other places that need it. Everybody else, thank you for jumping on and watching today. We'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel, all that good stuff. Y'all stay safe.